Good morning, NIO fam. It is Laser here with another weekend video analysis. It is 8:37 a.m. in the morning. It is April 11th. And I'm having a very, very good day. Sorry, I'm sipping my coffee. It's the morning actually here. I've been up now for almost a good hour and thinking about how I was going to make this video. And it's going to be pretty much the same format as we normally make it. It's going to be a life in the laser. Then we're going to talk about not only NIO, but we're going to go into some other names, including where's the China watch list? Baba. Here it is. Baba, Baidu, JD, Web. We'll look at the US dollar and we'll look at the Hang Seng index. And we'll wrap up our video with a conclusion. Before I begin, I always say this, just a quick disclaimer. If you're making a big financial decision, please do your own due diligence. Please do your own research. I'm just a guy who likes and loves the stock, loves sharing my opinion as to where I see the stock going on a week-to-week basis. Having said that, let's dive in to the life in the laser. I had a really cool week this week, and I felt it was worth sharing with you. Starting with my son, who was eating an Easter bunny chocolate. You know the really big ones that they make of like the bunnies? He had one of those. He got one of them for Easter. And he's like, "Can you open this for me?" I said, "Sure." I opened the package. He wanted to bite straight from the huge thing he was holding from the package. And I said, "Just be careful." I told him, "Don't bite with your front teeth because the chocolate's pretty hard and you shouldn't be using your front teeth to bite into anything hard. Try and bite with your back teeth." And he's like, "No problem." 20 minutes later, 30 minutes later, he comes running to me. His bottom tooth is bleeding and it's loose. He's like, "I bit with my front tooth." And I'm like, "Oh my God." And then he asks me, which I was to my surprise, he asked me, "Can you just pull it out?" Because it was super wiggly. It was a little bit loose, but now it was super wiggly and it was bleeding. And if you've never pulled like a tooth out before, like it's wet and slippery. So I needed to at first I grabbed the Kleenex and it got soaking wet and then it was slipping. I wasn't able to get a good grip on the tooth. So then I grabbed a paper towel, which was able to like, I guess like soak up his saliva. And then I got a good grip and I yoinked it out and it bled for like 30 seconds. And he was fine after. I gave him like a little cloth to put on his mouth. And it was interesting. It was his second bottom tooth that he lost actually. And he's around the age where you're losing teeth. So it was totally normal. And he handled it like a champ. Later on that week, we had a snow day we ended up getting a snow day for a school, which is weird because it's April. But we got like a bunch of snow, maybe 5 or 6 or 7 centimeters that came in, and it was just dangerous. There was like cars on the side of the highway, and I think it was like for freezing rain and dangerous. So they canceled this. They canceled the school. We were getting them ready for school. It was like literally 8:20. And in the morning, time to take him to school. Market's opening as well, which is also the time I'm dropping my kid off at school. And my wife checks her email, and she realizes that there was an email that got sent out at 6 a.m. saying that school was canceled, that there was going to be no buses and no school. And to my son's surprise, he was like, "Yeah!" He started cheering. He was like super happy. And it's funny because all the snow melted. Like it all melted, but I understood why they canceled. It was dangerous. There was like way too much snow, and when buses and people coming from out of town, like it's tough. So, so we decided to use that day to go to the movies. My son's a big Mario fan. We all, as a family, it might have been 2 years ago, watched the Mario movie, and my son was 4 at the time. And we were committed to watching the second Mario movie. It was Super Mario Galaxy. It was in theaters. I think it like broke box office records. And I got to say, coming into it, I had very high expectations, and you never should watch a movie with high expectations, but I did. And I was disappointed because my expectations were super high, but I think it's because it was a second movie. It made it harder I mean, I won't spoil it. The movie was good. It was entertaining. There was a lot of entertaining scenes. I value the story a little bit more, and I found the story harder to follow than the original. And I found there was a lot of new characters they introduced, and they weren't as special as the first movie with some of those characters. But overall, really cool movie. So that happened. And then another thing later in this week that happened, I figured I'd share this with you guys, is I told you my nighttime routine last week. I've been working on that. And some people shared some pretty good advice in the comments. So I've actually tried actually following through with some of that advice, like holding still, keep your hands steady. Those are things that I've been, trying to do. And I swear, the only thing that works for me, unless I'm like purely exhausted from no sleep the next day, the one thing that really hits the spot is just watching a TV show or watching a movie. So now I'm watching a new TV show called The Rise of Merlin. It's like a sci-fi TV show. I'm like a few episodes into it, but it's a pretty cool show. I like it. And then okay, so that's a life in a laser. A couple other things, and this is more so specific to my Discord room, which you guys are all invited. I'll share a couple of conversations that I've had, and I think it's relevant to you guys for me to share. A couple of conversations came up, and I felt it was worth sharing in this video. Number one, we talked about the differences in our Discord room between buying and holding or swing trading. And it was an interesting topic because I believe there's no right answer. Everybody has a different strategy, and for each person, it's different. And it's entirely up to the person who's investing as to what works best for them. Swing trading, while swing trading may work for one person, it may not work for the next person. And if you don't know what swing trading is, it's buying and selling, and you're selling the rips and trying to buy lower. And then, as you all know, what buying and holding is, you literally just buy and you just wait until it hits your whatever your price target is, and that's when you sell. And they both have the advantages. Some of the conversations was, it's dangerous to actually swing trade if you've not gotten experience, and and I think it depends on the person. It depends on your experience. Swing trading is not for everybody, but it is something that you certainly. Some people do take advantage of that. And I'll say this, NIO is, when it takes its trip back to all-time highs, when it wants to get all the way back up into $67, it won't be able to do that just in a straight line. At least I don't think so. I mean, I'd be happy to see that go in a straight line, but as we all know, it probably will do that in waves. And, maybe it goes to 12. You got a little pullback, and then we get higher. It's going to do something like this, okay? And the idea, so I believe there's opportunities to, take advantage of the fact that the price action will be moving in waves. And just from my experience, when NIO tends to go on a distribution and it tends to reset after its cycle, it tends to take 2 to 3 months of painful price action. Just look to the last 100% rally. It doesn't look like it. It doesn't look like it when you look at the chart. But this was painful. That was 90 days of a drawdown and just confused and just pushing lower. Now, I'm not saying that's going to happen exactly again the same way, but at some point in time, when it reaches its top end target, NIO, you're going to get something similar, okay? And so at least knowing that, it could help manage your expectations, because I know going down, there was a lot of people like, this is a bear trap, or this is, and there were signs that this was distribution. And these are the things, you should be aware of. Anyways, that's pretty much one thing that we talked about. And the last thing that we talked about before I dive right in was pretty much, I won't get too much into details because everybody has their own trading strategy, but it was also around trading, is trading around like margin and leverage, like using options. And I'll say this, there's no right or wrong way to actually trade. You guys can do as you want, but NIO is a very volatile stock. It has the potential to run up 100, 200% just in a single leg, in a single stretch, like over a few months span. Having extra leverage is like, I feel like that's just, that to me is dangerous, trading leverage on an already volatile stock. There's more than enough volatility in NIO for you to make money with common shares, which gives you unlimited time to the upside. Like if this move ends up being a 100% move up to 9, that's a huge amount. Whatever you've invested, like to earn 100% on a play is fantastic. Yes, if you were in options, that would be significantly more. But options, you have to time it right, and that could go really wrong. And margin, if things don't go well. So I will say this is, just realize and be self-aware that NIO is a volatile stock, and adding leverage, adding margin to your trade, I think that's you're stepping into the realm of being greedy. And if you expose yourself with so much greed, you can actually get burned for that. So that's just my opinion. So having said that, let me dive right in. You guys came here for the analysis on NIO. One guy actually in my comment section for the last video, and I haven't had a chance to actually respond to the people I appreciate everybody actually answering, mentioned to me that they can't see some of it's too small because they're watching on my phone. I don't know how to really like make this bigger. Let's see if can I zoom this in? This is as much zoomed as I can. And I think they asked that I just read out the numbers as opposed to not. So I'm going to try and do that today. So NIO closed at 652 on Friday. Absolutely insane. Let's jump into the velocity here. The 24-hour velocity, we finished the week on a higher high. Amazing. Amazing. And I'll explain why that's amazing. If it didn't make this higher high and it made a lower high, if it had made a lower high, that would have been a bearish daily divergence where the velocity would make a lower high and the price made a higher high. The last time it did that was right here. Actually, it did that right here. That was the last time it did that. Okay. And that's usually a sign when you see that on the 24 hours is dangerous. And it cleared that. Now, because we've gotten a higher high on the velocity, and you can see it's curling down now, it earned us the right to pull back. It almost looks like it wants to curl up, but it hasn't quite yet. And it's okay if it doesn't. But if it does want to, and it kind of looks like it wants to, next week could be honestly an insane week for NIO. Now, I'm going to draw out this green line on the velocity. We talked about this maybe once before where, and I'll do a quick refresher, is this green line, when I draw this out on the velocity, is typically where all the lower high rallies would die. Died over here, which was, and I'll read that, which was January 2024. It died right over here, which was May 2024. Notice the run it fizzled out. And it died right over here, which was another lower high rally. And it fizzled out, which was on March 20th, 2020. Those were your lower high rallies. They didn't actually go beyond that. Now, if you look at the in between, we have 3 setups that made 100% moves. There was one. Noticed it didn't die. It made a higher low above the green line, which was last year, August 2000, and the August rally, the August, September, October rally. Then there was September, October rally of 2024. Notice it made a higher low above the green line. And then there was the rally of the July and August. It's funny how it all comes back to August here. August is a good month for NIO, apparently. And it made another higher low. Okay. So if you notice that move that we had after earnings, which topped at 625 and saw us come back to 535, it brought our velocity back below the green line where it rejected. But we're now doing something different. We broke back above and made a higher high, and we're back above that green line. And it looks like it's almost wanting to curl up. If it does this, your next leg higher will be coming. Now, we'll have to dive in a little bit into the 4 hours and the 1 hour to really get a better understanding. But if that higher low comes, and it doesn't even have to come, but I'm convinced that we're going to get that next leg higher. So whatever this leg was, double it. You're going to get that next leg, and I'll double it. It's coming. It's double. It's coming. It's coming. Get excited. Get excited. This is something to get very excited about, especially Friday. Friday is just, I was not expecting Friday to be, a reversal to come in that quick. So is the bottom in? That's the question for this week. My coffee went from being hot to being warm, which is not bad. I don't mind drinking warm coffee, but I like my coffee hot to a point where when I drink it, it kicks the roof of my palate where it almost like it bites. You know how they say Barks has bite, or when you're drinking pop and it gives you that, it kicks the roof of your palate. I love that feeling. And to me, when you lose that feeling, it's not as satisfying. And that's like when you drink like flat pop, it doesn't quite have that punch. You shouldn't drink pop. It's not healthy, or even coffee. But my coffee got a little warm because I was just talking too long here. So I'm going to try and finish it before it gets cold. When it gets cold, then I don't really like the coffee actually so much. All right, I got some energy. I've got some coffee here, actually. Bear with me here for 1 second. I will blow my nose. Hopefully, this will just be the last time I'll have to blow it in my video. Once and last and only. All right, I am back and ready to finish this video. We need to dive into the smaller time frames on NIO. And take a look underneath the hood and see what's happening here. So let's go together. Let's take a look. We're going to go into the 4 hour time frame. And we're going to take a look to see what is happening here. Okay. And I'm going to tell you right here, I'm going to let you know, I'm going to be candid here. I am not confident what the heck happened on Friday and what the heck is going on with NIO, but I always allow myself to remain, well, I am biased. I will always have a bullish bias, but I always lean to whatever the structure is telling me, and that's one thing that I'll always do. And so when I look at our 4 hour structure, Wednesday, April the 8th, we made a lower high on the velocity. And that was the news that came out, which was the ES9 launch, where it was almost like, it felt like a sell the news event. And that's where it went to $6.70. It made a lower high. I actually was convinced that it would make a higher high. I was convinced you would get the higher high, because how do you go from, it closed from 636 up to like 669 or 667. Like that's insane. And not get the higher high. But it didn't. It didn't get the higher high. It got a lower high. And that was a bearish divergence. Okay. That's one thing that's kind of suggesting like, okay, well, now, and I'm going to take us back to the 24 hours. Now that we made the higher high, we've earned the right, which was the first down from a football analogy, we've earned the right to pull back and still can maintain an uptrend, a bigger, longer uptrend. And if there's a pullback, pullbacks are designed for bulls. not for the bears to short. They're designed for the bulls to get back in, or for new bulls to get in and actually get in. That's what I believe. And so we have this bearish divergence on that took place here. And that drop, that 7% drop that took place, you'll notice actually where there was actually a little tiny trend line where it actually decided to actually bottom right there. And that measured move, the bears showed up. It made a lower low. I'm going to type that so you guys can see on the chart a lower low. That velocity was a lower low. So here's the $1 million question, and people in my Discord group were actually saying, like, is the bottom in? I don't know if the bottom's in. You know, is the next leg higher going to come? I don't want to say and speak certain. What I will tell you is, from a velocity framework, when you have a lower low, it hasn't proven itself until it generates a higher low. Okay, so that could either look like this, which would be a higher low, or, and I've seen this, it could also look like this. It could go from lower low straight up to a higher high and then make the higher low. You could see that. That's like some sharp from a lower low to a higher high. And then you only get that higher low that comes in later. In both instances, you wait for a confirmation, because here is the reality. The velocity, the overall trend is in a downtrend right now. And if you don't see it, I'll spell it for you, and I'll illustrate it for you. We got the lower low and the lower high. That is a classic downtrend. And I'm not, when you look at the price, it's like, well, what the hell? Like, it freaking launched. But in a downtrend, you're in this structure, and then the way the structure is broken. And this is a kind of a learning lesson for you guys. So we'll just call this a lower high. We'll call this. We'll go full screen. Some of you guys are on your mobile, so a lower low. Notice. Downtrend, lower high, lower low, and again, lower high. Notice what breaks this. What breaks this is the higher low. Now, not completely, because you can always get like a lower high, lower low, and it can do that. You still need the higher high to break that trend. The higher high is important. The higher low is important. And you can see this is our downtrend right there. This is where it's broken. This is confirmed now, higher high, and that's your very first higher low after getting a higher high. Now we're in an uptrend. At the moment, we're still technically here, okay? But building another lower high. And it could just do this. It could still make another lower low. How do we know? How do you know we'll do that or not? Well, I mean, you won't know until you wait for the higher low. You have to essentially say, like, okay, is this going to make a higher low here? Is this going to make another higher high here? And at that point, like, you got to like flip your bias at that point. Like, it's ready to go. Now, what I know from a velocity perspective is there's two things that will flip this and make it curl higher. A higher low on the 4 hours will do it. And so if let's just erase this. I take us back to the velocity. We do need a higher low. Or there's one other thing that will do that. A face rip and rally. Like, it's so strong that it goes straight into just a higher high. That alone will be enough to curl it up. And maybe that's what it's doing. Maybe. For me, I stay cautious. the risk to reward for anyone who's sitting on, and I'm not giving, this is not financial advice, but I always analyze this for anyone who's new. Maybe you're just watching this video and you're like, I like NIO, maybe I want to start a position. The risk to reward right at these prices